All right. Hey, everybody. Scott Tucker here again for the second show of today of the Veteran Wealth Secrets show. Real excited for this next conversation. I think you're going to find it very meaningful and get a lot of perspective on finding purpose in post-military life. But first, I want to remind you that today until Friday at midnight, my brand new book, Veteran Wealth Secrets, the Post-Military Guide to Autonomy and Financial Control, is available now on Amazon for free until Friday night. So make sure you grab a copy. Please leave a review, share it with anybody who it might be good for, because basically there I lay out our whole philosophy of what we do as the sponsor of this show at Vet Wealth, where we're realizing that the story we've been told about how to manage your prepare for post-military life, specifically financially, it's all been told this lie about saving for retirement, when really the opportunity is, what do you really want to do? Wealth is not about money. Wealth is about your time and your meaningful purpose. And so that's why I'm so excited to bring on my old friend from a long time ago in the Army, back in Germany, Mark Miller. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Scott. How you doing? Happy belated Veterans Day to you.
Yeah, likewise. That kind of it's like everything this year has just been kind of thrown for a loop. I mean, I know everybody always posts the Veterans Day stuff, but it sucks when you can't just go out and have a beer with some of your buddies on a day like today because everybody's in fear mode. But no, I'm really excited to catch up with you. It's been fun you had an active duty career, being in the public affairs branches. That's how it's called, right? In the Army. I almost got assigned in the public affairs office after my unit disbanded in the 1st Infantry Division. And I was like, oh man, what's this gonna be? I got to write speeches for the general and stuff. But if you'd like to, yeah, right. And so, I'd like to know, I mean, given kind of what's going on, you got out of the military a couple years ago. That's a unique skill set coming up. They always say translate your skills. And a lot of times I argue, hey, that's honestly, a limited path. Everybody can't be a project manager. Just because you turned a wrench in the Army doesn't mean you should do it in the civilian world. Yet, I think public affairs is quite a cool skill set to get in the military. It's almost like the people who are on the AFN news, like that's their military job or something. Like, oh man, that's cool. That's definitely skill sets you can translate into some pretty cool stuff. But what's life been like for you since you got out? What are you up to these days, especially given this environment we're in right now?
Sure. Well, first off, thanks again for having me on here. This is super cool. Yeah. I love what you're doing. So, and I love you helping veterans. So, props to you for that. Life has been interesting for me for the last 2 years. I retired 2 years ago, but it was a retirement that was earlier than I expected. So, because of that, and that was for medical reasons, but because of that, I rushed through the process of transitioning, and that. You know what? I won't even say that sounds like an excuse. That is an excuse. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I know you talk a lot about transition, and the one question I asked myself, and probably answered too quickly, maybe not, was, what do you want? And if you think about that phrase, you might say that to your dog when your dog is, just staring at you. Or my wife and I don't have kids, but for people who have kids, sometimes a child starts crying and it's like, well, what do you want? We don't grow out of that. You really need to look yourself in the mirror and ask, what do you want? Do you want money? Do you want more time, like you were just alluding to? Do you want, like nothing else, to be in a certain geographic region? And I don't pull those 3 examples out of nowhere. Yeah. I know people who that means the most to them. A good friend of mine is still on active duty and probably going to retire. He's past his 20 years already, but he's a very senior officer and he's still doing great things. But he's got a very specific geographic location in mind that he wants to end up in. And he doesn't care if he's employed there, not employed there, maybe part-time employed, maybe running his own business, but his number one priority is to get to a certain geographic location in Missouri to be near his family. And bravo, that's excellent. He knows where he wants to be. So the reason I ask, people to ask themselves that question, what do you want, is because it goes way beyond, career or finances. It goes to the heart of what do you want as an individual. So, transition is very different for the guy who says, I'm retiring and I'm going to take my modest pension and I want a cabin out in the backwoods of Tennessee, and I'm going to hunt and fish all day, and that's what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. Cool. Don't look at that guy and expect the military to look at him the same way that they're looking at someone trying to land a corporate position, transitioning their skills the way I have. So going back to what you said about, transferring those skills and translating those skills, sure, that was easy for me to do, but it's because it's what I enjoy and it's what I want to do. So that's what I wanted. I know plenty of public affairs officers and people in other fields like military medical fields or other very specialized finance, whatever, that they could definitely translate those skills to the civilian world, but choose not to. And that's okay. So it's not that you should or shouldn't or listen to anyone else tell you. It's, well, do I enjoy the career field I'm in, or do I use my transition from the military as an opportunity to go a different direction? I chose to stay in the same profession and just do it differently, but that's not for everybody. So I think transition is as unique as the person.
Yeah, Mark, I'm glad you put it that way, because it reminded me of, I got out after 5 years. I became a financial advisor, and I thought that's my new identity. This is my new job. This is all I can do. And about 5 years into it, I realized I don't even believe in this. I don't have integrity with myself. And I was like, I don't know what I want. I was still in Germany. I didn't know if I wanted to be there. It was weird because I was sort of self-employed. So I felt like I was autonomous, but I didn't know what I wanted. And luckily, I remember distinctly, I was sitting on my couch. I might have even been in tears, but I said, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to go find it and look for it. And yes, I'm still kind of in the financial services thing now, but I went and found, I built the skill sets of online marketing and digital, sales, and realizing that, oh my gosh, anybody can learn these skill sets in a weekend and then apply it and then build and learn more on it. And specifically the ability to create that mobile income so you can be geographic independent. You can move around as needed or go where you want to go. We don't have to just take these jobs. And I'm glad, you bring this up, like, what do you want? Because guess what? It might take a few years. And I always talk about, go into your first post-military job with the intention of leaving. Maybe you don't, but it allows you to kind of be a stepping stone, as you said. So I wanted you to dig in a little bit deeper of, what's the secret that you discovered? Because I think you kind of had your own version of that. And I'm curious, like, what do you want to share a little bit more about, finding that sense of purpose?
Sure. So I'll share my own example, but my secret is just that. Go back to that core question of what do you want?
Okay.
And I forgot to add, it's okay for that to change, because maybe you thought you wanted something and you get there and you realize, this isn't what I wanted. That's okay. If for any of the philosophy folks out there that have read Siddhartha, he couldn't figure out if he wanted to be a shaman, a businessman, or a guy who ferried people across the river on a boat. Heck, and he lived a happy life. He was totally content, but he followed numerous different paths, and there's nothing embarrassing about that. So, and I think society, the veteran community, I think maybe we shame that too much when you get into something and realize, that's not for me, and you walk away and go a different direction. People say, oh, he's having trouble finding himself, or, oh yeah, the transition's been tough on him or her. And and in the reality, no, maybe you just decided to jump to something else. So so that's my one sentence secret is, what do you want? But in terms of me, how it worked out is, I walked through the steps of transitioning deliberately, as you brought up in your first book, From Deployment to Dollars, that that we really need to think about. Where am I now, and where do I want to be, and what kind of job do I want to do? Not just I got to find a job. Oh, I got to make a big paycheck. And so I kind of thought, well, working in government my entire adult life, maybe the easiest transition for me would be to still work in government, but maybe local government. And so I ended up as the public affairs director for a city, for a municipality. And it was amazing. It was a terrific job. And if I look at it in totality, it was terrific. The experience was great. I wouldn't trade it. But what I found was that real reward and the fun, the excitement, that was all in the first year to maybe 15 months. And I say that because that's when I brought in ideas they hadn't seen before, processes that were new and exciting, and I was providing so much value that I really had a great sense of purpose. I was doing great things for the city. And then it started to taper off, where the expectation was, all right, you've come up with enough good ideas, you've built this, now just maintain that. And by the way, do these other random tasks. And then I realized, like, oh, that's not fun for me. What was fun was building it, was bringing the new ideas and perspective to the table, making them more efficient at communicating with the public. And when I wasn't providing that anymore, all of a sudden I felt like, and I still say to this day, I didn't resign from that job. I finished that job. So it was almost a feeling of my job is done here. And then when I reflected to say, well, it's clearly time for me to move on based on the way that I felt at work. And I think all veterans who have gone out into their first job know, like, you hit that wall where you're like, this isn't fulfilling. And so what's the first thing a lot of people do is go and look for another job, but then you're going to go through that same process. And I thought, I bet I would love the next job for a year to a year and a half, and then realize, well, maybe I've given that organization all that I can, all the counsel and all the insights that I can, and then it would be time to move on again, which is why I started my own communications consulting business, Miller Public Relations. So when I started that business, now every day I'm helping clients to understand how to better communicate and how to build their public-facing communication structure to work better for them. And then they go and execute it, and I'm on to the next client. So my favorite part of that full-time job is now my full-time job by helping numerous clients. So that's how I found my way, but I'm still building my way. So it's never a finished project.
No, absolutely. I love that. I love that you recognized where you were bringing value and essentially decided to scale and say, why am I only going to do this for one employer, one source of income, where if all of a sudden you get a new government official, a boss who's like, I don't like your new ideas, like that can get nasty if you think, well, I still need this job. I think people get stuck in some jobs they hate for years and years just because they just happen to be under a boss. And in any ways, when you only got one stream of income, if for whatever reason that goes away, now you're screwed. But versus, going and doing what you've done and figuring out how to bring more value to others, keeps you creative. And of course, if you lose a client, you can always go get more. I'm curious, what do you do? What are you doing right? How long have you been in business with this?
So I made the decision to start the business back in May, but and this is another thing that you can do when you're in business for yourself. I made the decision in May, but I didn't launch until September, and that's because my wife's a teacher. And I said to myself, I haven't taken a summer off since high school. So my wife and I took the summer off, and I don't regret that one bit. Sure, that was a financial decision, but took the summer off. So in reality, I really launched the business in September.
Great. Okay. So new business in the COVID age. I'm guessing you don't necessarily have to be brick and mortar. I'm not sure how PR firms used to work. But what are you doing now, or maybe what's happening now that's different from what you expected launching a PR firm might be like? Is it different, like your strategy to get clients, or yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, so many. That's probably a whole segment in itself. But
hey, go for it.
Oh, what I didn't know about the costs. I'm not brick and mortar, so
Okay.
that reduces overhead. I'm in my home office right now, so my commute from my bedroom is approximately 15 seconds. So this
Likewise,
is,
love it.
yeah, it's actually great. And COVID has really been an advantage to me because it has taught organizations, leaders, managers how much you can get done over this method of communication we're using right now. And I don't mean to take away from meeting in person and how important that is, but when you can't do it, um, I can really get a lot done with clients this way. And that's also allowed me to break into helping clients nationwide. So I don't have a single local client.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my clients that I've worked with have been, you know, Aravapo Watershed Conservation Alliance in Southern Arizona, Teach for America Hawaii. The high school that I went to in Illinois, I just provided the proposal packet to them, and I've got an upcoming meeting with them. So we're talking
Damn.
Illinois, Arizona, Hawaii. Do you hear Texas anywhere in there? No.
Right.
So COVID has really been something that has worked to my advantage, and that I'm sitting here in Texas, but the work I'm doing is one end of it's in Texas and the other end is over here in whatever other state. So my limitation is now, for legal reasons, that I provide services just in the United States. So that's a much bigger footprint than I would have had as a local guy. So that's worked out well. The unexpecteds have been everything from, I didn't realize how much insurance you had to get as an LLC in terms of liability insurance and all these other things that companies want before you respond to their RFP. Just I didn't realize that getting clients was going to be mostly through my personal network.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone says monetize your friendships. I always thought that was a little hollow. I'm like, no, these are my friends. I don't need to monetize that. But then without any pressure, when I put it out there in my own network that I have a business, sure enough, that's where the leads came from, was
Mm-hmm.
people I knew who knew my work ethic, who knew my competence already, who were willing to say, hey, you're someone we're looking for. And so actually I haven't gotten a single client yet that wasn't attached to somebody I knew.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a way of service, I mean, who better to serve and help than those you know and love, right? So, I mean, other than people know you, do you think that your skill set in public relations coming from the military makes you different than a typical public relations firms? Like, what is it that makes you unique when it comes to this because I know public relations is changing drastically from what it used to be. It's not about press releases so much anymore, right?
They're still valuable, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, PR does not stand for press release. That's a line I've used before. PR does change rapidly, but my military background combined with now my municipal background really gives me a niche where I'm able to operate in the world of government and nonprofit, believe it or not. There's a
Okay.
lot of consistencies between those two where your audience isn't always an audience of potential customers. So I've been built up in my public relations background as someone learning to help improve, maintain, stabilize the image and reputation of an organization that isn't necessarily looking for an end state of customers and sales. So
Mm-hmm.
that puts me at a great advantage with any government or nonprofit organization. I'll be very candid and say it probably puts me at a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to the commercial or Fortune 500 type companies,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't have as much familiarity with that arena. And you'll notice those aren't my clients.
No, okay. So that makes, I mean, that makes a lot of sense that I think, especially in the veteran space, there's so many veteran service I mean, there's 45,000 of them. And I know they all got a great idea and stuff, but not always do they communicate or attract who they want to serve in the right way. Just from experience of what I've seen, it just almost seems like there's confusion. I mean, we get out of the military, and it's like, gosh, there's so many resources. Like, which one's the right one for me? So I want to move on a little bit and kind of ask you, what's next? What do the next 3 years look like for Mark Miller Public Relations? What do you see changing on the horizon that we need to be aware of? Because a lot of us do go into these government organizations or nonprofits, and even for-profit businesses. What's ahead that we really need to, because this is, stuff's been changing like crazy. I'm afraid to say anything, without getting yelled at, and I don't even know if that's relevant or not. But I just like to see if there's any insights you can give our community on, hey, how do we need to be communicating with those we're meant to serve?
Yeah, well, first of all, if you're scared to say anything without getting yelled at, my services are available. we can talk about that later. But no, what's the next 3 to 5 years for me? I'll start with saying that starts next Friday for me. I am taking the GRE again after 10 years. The last time I took it was to get into my master's program at Georgetown. And unfortunately, I don't know if you know this, when you take the GRE, it's only good for 5 years.
Okay.
I even called them. I called ETS and tried to say, hey, but that whole time I was active duty military. If you waive that time, then I've only really been 2 years. They didn't buy it. And in fact, in case anyone's wondering, they don't retain the scores after 5 years. So you can't sweet talk your way into it. So
yeah, you might have gotten dumber, right?
Yeah, they're just making sure. And that's probably highly likely in my case. I don't know. Like I haven't seen a quadratic equation in literally 10 years. It's a little intimidating.
Oh my gosh.
So the GRE next Friday, with the goal behind that, I'm going to be applying to PhD programs that would start in fall of 21. So August, September timeframe of 21. And that's not me walking away from the business, but rather saying, if I want to be successful long-term, I need to be a thought leader in my field. And when there are people with communications, public policy and rhetoric, and degrees like that are PhDs, and Dr. Jones and Dr. Smith are out there, I'm not the most credible available. So although I have a pretty deep resume of government, both federal and local public relations work, I've got a master's degree in public relations. My undergraduate degree is in mass communications. Sure, I've got credentials, but I seek to be an absolute expert and thought leader in my field. And I came to the conclusion I can't do that without a PhD. So that's the next goal for me. And while I'm in that program, I plan to still continue helping clients. I might have to scale back a little bit to balance. But again, it's asking that question, what do you want? And part of what led me to that was that summer off was amazing. So, hey, my wife loves teaching. She's going to continue to teach grade school. So if I were in academia as well, that creates us as a team having a little bit more autonomy in the summers. Now, if I'm teaching at university level, I get it. My summers wouldn't be off. Those are generally set aside for research and publishing, but they don't generally have a geographic requirement. You're not physically somewhere. So I could still go travel with my wife on the summers and then be able to still complete my work that I need to for my research and publication, and then come back and start teaching courses again back on campus, wherever that may be in the fall. So that's the second reason that I'm seeking a PhD. And if I could sidetrack for just a second.
Sure.
They made us take a course my freshman year at Illinois State University called Foundations of Inquiry. And I never forgot that course. I still remember the professor, Dr. Hathaway. And this course was all about asking questioning what's put in front of you. So if you hear something in the news, if you hear something just flying around that's accepted as fact, this course was an entire semester dedicating to questioning those things. And that's become so valuable in our current environment, where for the first time in our lifetimes, and it's happened before in history with the advent of the newspaper and then tabloids. So we've been through this before, but not in your lifetime or mine, that people are actually operating with different sets of facts. Like, you wonder why our country is fractured right now? It's because guy A over here doesn't believe the same facts as guy or gal B over here. And so we're not arguing over what the facts mean. We're literally arguing over the facts themselves. And that course in Foundations of Inquiry really prepared me for that, even all these years later. But it helps to what you're talking about with transition as well, that we need to inquire about, hey, if everybody, whether that's people in the military or family members or whoever, is telling me, oh yeah, the next step here is to go get a corporate job or go get a good job, make sure you're making a good paycheck, hey, check this out. I looked at the whole transition process differently and said, okay, everything I'm being fed by the transition office here are great resources to question things. So they teach you to look at cost of living in different areas you might end up. That's a good thing to inquire about. Oh, is this what you want to do, or do you want to use this as an opportunity for a career switch? Another good point of inquiry. So I looked at it as all points of inquiry, not as an instruction manual that I was supposed to follow, but rather as a program of several questions to ask.
No, I think you're exactly right. Right now in America, it's like people are watching completely different movies on the same screen, and you don't just change people's minds if they are choosing to be a useful idiot and not be willing to ask deeper. Like, is that always true? Is that true for everyone? Or what else be out there? And honestly, when you say thought leader, I love the idea of thought leadership. Because it's all about personal branding. And it sounds to me like this might be a line of inquiry for you to bring some unique value. You thinking about doing speaking or writing a book or anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah. And I've actually thought about, you were part of my inspiration for that. I'm like, okay, this guy that we used to hang around in Germany. If I'm not mistaken, the last time we saw each other in person was at that Army-Navy game, maybe back in 2012 or somewhere around there. So yeah, I've definitely thought about writing a book when I see my colleagues and peers out there have done that. And for me, I feel like I need to seek a little bit more knowledge before I'm ready to do that. That right now I might be a great authority in practice, but I'm seeking to be a better authority in theory as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the theory, practice, get a little more theory, keep building, and then eventually you just kind of go, holy cow, I've got something unique here. I need to write this down or communicate or share it with an audience in some way, because ultimately it doesn't matter what industry or job description you're talking about. The most successful people are those who are known, and in this day and age, I mean, think Dr. Phil, Dave Ramsey. I mean, they're not even really licensed people, but Dr. Oz. It's just, but that's the thing. They're on TV. They're famous and all that. In this day and age, you don't have to be famous. You can go find your own unique, small audience of 100, 1,000 people, whatever, and become quite successful because now you're serving those whom you're meant to serve. And it ends up being a heck of a lot more fun. So I've really enjoyed that. I'd love to help you out any way I can, if I could be helpful in doing the personal branding stuff, because I love your demeanor, your focus on what you want, getting that message out. Because you know what, I still get this almost every day from veterans and transitioning military. These are senior officers, senior NCOs, and the thing they say is, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And to give yourself the permission, almost force yourself to say, you got to find something. So, Mark, I love that message. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. How can people find you? I know you got a website, social media. Please lay that out so folks can find you and put your new business to work, please. If you're in a nonprofit, I know a lot of nonprofits are connected with us. And so if you're looking to grow your business or grow your nonprofit, get the word out, I definitely would consider Mark's services for sure.
Yeah, so you can find me real easily at markmillerpr.com. And then all my social media channels are linked from that website. So you can find those real easily too. And Scott, I really just appreciate you having me on. If I could offer one last thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I know a lot of times people say, well, the military doesn't prepare you for transition. And I hear that a lot, but I also want to respectfully challenge that a little bit and say, the military does prepare you for transition. You just don't know it, because everything you said, the military will take care of that for me. How did that work out? So, any equipment I need, they're going to issue me a CIF, right? How'd that work out? When I need food, I just go to the DFAC, right? How'd that work out? Those are just two examples of when we accept the military will take care of this for me. It doesn't work. So don't do that any differently with your transition. Don't say, the military is going to take care of it for me. They're going to give me some of the tools. So some of the stuff I needed, CIF did issue. And some of the stuff I needed to go get on my own to make sure I could do my job correctly and to make sure I was comfortable as well. So take that thought and realize, what did the military train you to do? Long-term planning, short-term planning, mission analysis, courses of action analysis, looking at your ends, ways, means, these goals you have 3 to 5 years. Are they the ends? Are they the ways? Are they the means? Are they a method? So to think through all the stuff the military taught you and use that for transition, as opposed to just looking completely at TAP, but looking at all the skills the military gave you, and then looking at that as, okay, now this is my mission, is my life. So I need to do the long-term, short-term planning. I need to do the mission analysis. I need to do the course of action analysis. I need to look at my ends, ways, means. If you're doing all that the way the military taught you, you're golden. It's just they didn't call it transition assistance. They called it doing your job.
Yeah, that, and surround yourself with good people as much as possible. I mean, the cool thing is about when you're in the military, you get assigned who you're going to be around, and we always say, hey, I love leading my soldiers and so on. But in the civilian world, you can choose who you want to be around. You just want to be around your buddies, and if they're miserable and not supporting you, it's like, go find those who you want to be like. Find people at your level or even better above your level. It's not like everybody has to be a mentor to you, but when you start to surround yourself with those types of people, it lifts you up. What's tide rises all boats. How does that go? I don't know. It's getting late. It's getting late in the day. Right? Rising tide. We got that going on right now. It's been raining like crazy. There's flash flood warnings here. It's nuts in Virginia Beach.
Oh man, we could use some of that here. I don't think we've had any rain in Houston for like 2 weeks now.
Oh really? But haven't you had all those hurricanes coming through there?
Oh, that was last year.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
So the hurricanes this year both missed us, so we were thankful for that. But anytime I say that, I always extend thoughts and prayers to all those in Louisiana. So
it's been a nasty year with that, but
we were spared, but we think a lot about our brothers and sisters over there in Louisiana.
No, absolutely. Well, I think that's a good way to end it on this day after Veterans Day. Thinking of others. Let's continue to try to be of service. Find out what you want, so you can, one, be happy, be meaningful, and really figure out how to help people, because I don't know what else we're on earth for. It's just
that's all we can do.
Yeah, it really is. So if we're just going to get a job and we're not looking for that thing that feels meaningful, I think that's it. It ends up being dangerous these days. So love your mission and message to help end that. So thanks again, Mark. Hey, I put your email there. Obviously, that's the website as well. Mark at markmillerpr.com. And looking forward to hearing how things go in a year or so, how the business is booming. And yeah, maybe we should definitely talk. Actually, hang out here after we log off. I'd like to chat real quick.
You bet. Hey, thanks again for having me on.
You bet, man. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us again on Veteran Well Secrets. We will be live again next Tuesday with our next interview. I don't know the time or who yet, because we just got slammed with a bunch of interviews. So I'm super excited. But we're going to get organized and get this show off the road. So appreciate you coming on to early show, Mark. As we grow the audience, have you on again and keep promoting you.
Thanks so much, Scott.
All right. Take care.